Hello everybody. Yesterday we had a very interesting session in Europe and also in the United States. So that is why today we are talking via Skype with Heiko Seibel from Bernstein Bank. Hello, Heiko.
Thank you for having me.
Heiko, could you tell us please what happened with German index DAX? What really happened? We just saw everything run down, and could you tell us please what really exactly happened?
Well, what we saw yesterday, not only yesterday, but also in the last 2 weeks in Germany, was that the market sentiment had a dramatic shift. So in Germany, when the coronavirus was identified and was developing in China, basically at least the investors didn't care about it. They just thought it might be a local problem, which is located in China only. But as time went by, we saw more and more infections and more really very sick people in Germany. That's a tragic part, but it's not really matters for the stock exchange. What matters for the stock exchange was that we had seen many disruptions in the supply chain because many products Germany uses or German company are using are coming from China. Also, think about the small and the medium companies in Germany. They have very tight partnerships with Italian companies, and Italy is in an state of emergency at the moment. So what happened yesterday or over the weekend was a perfect storm. We had on the one hand side this topic coronavirus, this issue coronavirus, and on the other hand side we had this price war in oil coming up between Saudi Arabia and Russia, especially Saudi Arabia and Russia. Better it is to say OPEC and Russia. So we had let's say a tumbling economy which reduces demand in oil, and we had a overshooting in supply or expected overshooting in supply, and so the price of oil collapses. And yeah, what we saw yesterday was a perfect storm in Germany. Basically, the worst companies, the worst stocks yesterday were the bank companies. It was especially Deutsche Bank, Commerzbank. They lost in their peak about 15%, which is huge for Germany's biggest banks. Also the car companies, because of being afraid of production gaps, which ended in a DAX collapse of not seen from 9/11. 2001, which was in the peak about 9%, and we finished about 6.5% lower. And if you can see the chart here, we just managed to have defended this support area, which is around 10,600 points, which is an upcoming trend line. But when you see the chart, it is a very, very steep decline. It's a very, very high volume decline. So I wouldn't be too surprised if this market will at least show some volatility in the next few weeks to make some kind of stabilization, or might even test the lows again, what we saw yesterday. And think about that, if you touch the lows, which are at 10,300 points, the big psychological mark of 10,000 points is not far away. So I wouldn't be too surprised to see the DAX trading around 10,000 points in the next few weeks.
So looking at the chart, we can see the trend line. So there is a possibility that we may go in uptrend in the nearest future.
I wouldn't call it an uptrend, because for establishing a new uptrend, the market has just fallen too much, and with a very, very high speed. If you just count the days it took the DAX to evaporate, more than 3,000 points, 13,800 was the high, and 10,500, 600 was the low, and it took us about 2 weeks to go from the top to the low, but it took us a few months to go from this 10,300 to 13,800. So I wouldn't be too optimistic about the near future, because if you talk about the trend, of course the market can always see a bounce from an oversold market, but it is for me it is hard to say that the market will change direction now, because the speed of the decline was so high that we have more risk on the downside, I guess, in the midterm than on the upside. So I would be, as a trader, the environment would be, I would consider it be a good environment, because as a trader, you want to see volatility, and you will see volatility in the market, and you also want to see up and downward spiking markets, and I think this will happen. And but to establish a trend, I think it will take some at least weeks, rather months, to see a new uptrend in the DAX coming.
So please tell us, you're an expert. Can you see crisis already?
Definitely yes, because I can see a crisis, because if you, I know that Poland is a country which is not, in my perception, is not that affected from this coronavirus as Germany is. But Germany just started, or just look to Italy. Italy is in a state of emergency. There is no traveling anymore in Italy. Even if you are an Italian, there is no life on the streets anymore. Even if you are an Italian, just want to buy some food in the grocery store, there are no events anymore. Think about football, which is a big thing in Italy as well as in Germany. And this all starts to happen in Germany as well. We will see the first football games on the weekend, which are ghost games. So there is absolutely no visitor allowed to be in the stadium. We have seen already, and we will see in the next weeks, the cancellation of trade fairs, of shows, of big events. And I think it will hit the economy. There's no chance that it won't hit the economy. Of course, there's a lot of bad news already priced in the markets. But I think if you think about the banks, it is a tough scenario for being very optimistic in stocks, because nobody knows, nobody can assume when those measures will end, at what time. So at the moment we have a 4-week period to try these let's say the ghost games in the German Bundesliga. But what happens in 4 weeks? Because if the status quo is the same as it is now, is it worse? Probably it is worse. So they have to extend it, and therefore I think it is a very high uncertainty. And companies that do not, that you do not travel anymore. Lufthansa, which is the biggest, one of the biggest airlines in the world, they canceled every second flight, and no matter if it goes to abroad or if it is in Germany. So I'm not super pessimistic, but I think there is we will see a big bump in economic development, and hopefully it won't extend to a crisis. But I wouldn't exclude it that it becomes to a crisis, even though the virus by itself is not that dangerous when it comes to mortality. But the psychological effect, because a lot of people, they do not consume, they do not invest, they do not travel anymore, and it harms the economy without any doubt. So yeah, I think we are going through hard times at the moment, and it's not sure when we will see the end of them.
Yes, and there is one thing, as you start saying, the OPEC meeting, that let's say it collapsed, and there is why crude oil went down. If we look at the crude oil, and if we say that it's going down, it went down for about 30% till Friday last week. and we can say that also the people have trouble with traveling, then any airplane company, any travel company won't say, well, it's a good thing that oil going down. So it's a very dangerous scenario, very dangerous situation, and it is very bad for the global economy. What can you say about the crude oil?
I mean, I agree with you that the low energy price is good for the economy, especially if you travel a lot, especially for the industry, under the premise that the price decline will be also given to the consumers. So I don't know how it is exactly in Poland, but sometimes in Germany you see the gasoline prices on the market, it goes down by 15-20%, and if you go with your car to a fuel station, it is at the same price as it was before. So under the premise that these price declines will be given also to the consumer, I'm fully in with you. The problem I see is with the oil price is that it was the oil is also a signal for the state of the economy. So if you want oil, the price of oil is kind of an indicator, and also when it comes to inflation. What I don't like about the oil price is that the last drop, which was price-wise similar to the drop we saw yesterday, it took the oil price, I think it was 14 months, and now we had it over the weekend. So it was such a huge shock for the market, for the oil market, that I'm on the one hand side I'm happy about low oil prices, but on the other hand side I'm worried about this collapse gives us some kind of a prediction what can happen in the future. Of course it is a very political thing. Oil because of OPEC, oil always had this political component because we have OPEC and we have Russia, and now we have this this play between Saudi Arabia and Russia, and the one wants to show the other that it can stand lower oil prices for a mid or long term. So I wouldn't be too surprised. The same what I said to the DAX, if we go lower with oil, because if you look at the chart, there is a huge gap which technically could be filled in the next few weeks, but we have hit and we have crossed very important support lines, which you see here. This 42 mark, or let's say about $40, $40, 41, 42 is a support line, and we have violently crossed this support line. So also here, I wouldn't be too expected to see crude oil going back to maybe below 30, even below 30. And this is also bad news for the companies, for let's say the US companies which are doing fracking, because they need higher oil prices. They need oil prices around $45 to $50. There is a big impact on huge giants like Exxon. Look at the chart, Exxon. If you look at the energy sector in general in the US, you see that the energy sector just from January 1st has lost 45% of its value. Of course, a huge part of it yesterday, but it is a huge weakness you already see in the energy sector. And of course, you have the same chain everywhere else. So a company is not producing revenues, it cannot cover the costs, it cannot serve the credits, and if it cannot serve the credits, some bank might get in trouble because the bank gives the credit. And so forth. Therefore, I wouldn't be too happy about these low oil prices. I would be a little bit more worried because it went so fast and so quick. And without a doubt, there is more to come on the consequences of these lower oil prices. I just mentioned the suppliers of oil, the producers, the explorers, and so on. And of course, this will have a spillover somehow in the financial sector, especially if the financing is done via credit. So don't be too optimistic about this low, or too happy about these low oil prices.
Okay. Thank you very much for this interview. My guest and yours was Heiko Seibel from Bernstein Bank. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me. Have a good day.